let's start at the very beginning when you were sort of creating your lookbooks and things like that for the show. What were you thinking? What were you imagining? Were you using sort of the Carol Burnett's and the Joan Rivers and stuff as inspiration, or did you sort of start from scratch?
When I first read the script, I did look at some of those images for inspiration, but I didn't want Deborah Vance to be a caricature or even sort of derivative of any of those women. I kind of found a little bit of inspiration in old Lucille Ball. Like, she sort of wore these great sort of pants and skirt combo things that I loved. Jean had mentioned to me when I first spoke to her about the character that she often thought about Sam Kinison when she was thinking about Deborah Vance. So I sort of ran with that sort of image also of how to incorporate the masculine and the feminine in the same person. So that was sort of the jumping off point for Deborah Vance.
And I'll jump around a little bit, but I read that, Jean was very involved and she would sort of text you pieces that she liked, and there were pieces of her own collection that sort of made it into the show. Can you tell me a little bit more about that, and if there's like a specific piece that, stands out to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the costumes were very important to Jean, particularly I think in everything that an actor does, I think costumes help to inform the character. And for Jean, I know when we had our first fitting, she was super excited because I think she started to understand who Deborah Vance was through the costumes. And then she was also very inspired, and Jean's a very thrifty shopper. So if things are on sale, it's even better. But she sent me a picture of a sparkly silver blazer that she found on sale, and she ended up wearing in that scene where she was in that little comedy club at Sacramento. So that was the jacket that Jean had found. And yeah, I mean, I thought it was really fun that she was so inspired by it all, that she sort of in her off time would look at things too.
Well, and that leads perfectly to my next question, which is, how did you establish the visual dichotomy of like Deborah Vance, the performer, and Deborah Vance when she's like at home? Or did you find that those two things sort of led into one another and bled together?
I mean, we definitely wanted there to be a difference between the stage persona and her off stage look at home. The silhouettes are somewhat similar, like the long duster coats that she wore on stage were sequins, and then in her off-camera life, she wore a lot of like silk kimonos, and pants. So the sort of silhouette was very similar, but the texture and the fabric was very different. And in her off-stage looks, we really tried to reflect the fact that she had, a lot of wealth, and she has exquisite taste. So, even though Deborah Vance is sparkly, she's not tacky. She has a sense of elegance that I think we were able to explore in her off stage looks.
And am I correct in that the gold sequined pantsuit that she wears in the finale, you actually made that?
No, I know I've read that before. I did. I mean, I did do some alterations to that, but it's actually a sequin suit by Bagley Mishka. So it existed, but it just, there was a very different idea originally for that finale outfit, which was going to be very sort of opulently Vegas and feathered and extravagant and very big. And that pantsuit was in the fitting. And when we put it on Jean, we just all sort of realized in that moment that the sort of sleek lines of that and the way it fit her served the story so much better, to sort of, even though it was head to toe gold sequins, that it had a sense of power and sort of sedateness as much as a sequin suit can have. But yeah, that's the story of that gold suit.
Yeah, and it's interesting because when we see her sort of being formal in her day-to-day life, she kind of goes towards black. And my favorite look of the whole show is the Pamela Rowland dress. And so how did you go into like designing her when she's being sort of like the dressy sort of sexier.
It was really fun. There's two black dresses in particular in the course of the series that looked really great on her, and both times she dresses intentionally to sort of call attention to herself, but also in a very elegant, understated way. So we decided, I think that's the only two times in this series that she wears short dresses. So, or things that show her legs really. So that was an intentional choice to keep it sort of knee length and very body conscious. And that Pamela Rowland dress, Jean wasn't sold on it when she saw it on the hanger, and she was not convinced that she could wear it. And but she tried it on, and all of our jaws sort of dropped on the floor when we when we saw her in it. She just looked incredible. We didn't even have to alter the dress. It just fit her perfect. Wow. So and I think she felt very sexy and great in that dress. I did design the hat that she wore at the beginning when she entered the bat mitzvah, so that was fun.
So describe sort of, if you can, that process of like seeing a garment and kind of just knowing that, you know, this is the one. Is there, I don't know, like some magical spidey sense thing that happens? Like,
sometimes, I mean, you know, I do like to go out myself and look at the costume houses and look in the stores and do some vintage shopping. And I don't know, sometimes something will just catch your eye. You'll see a sleeve, it'll be a color, it'll be something sparkly. And then you can just find treasures. Sometimes it's just happy accidents, you know.
And to transition to Ava, which is a very different look, you know, she obviously doesn't have the money, she doesn't have the time. How did you approach her character?
The sort of goal with Ava all along was to keep her as real as possible. You know, Ava is a 25-year-old writer living in LA, and especially on the east side of LA, Silver Lake area, and it has a very sort of specific aesthetic. So we wanted to be true to that. And a lot of Ava's clothes were vintage. We used Hannah Einbinder, who plays Ava, her Doc Martens for the show. So they were like very beloved and well worn and lived in. We aged most of her things. But Ava also has a sense of style and taste. Like, even though it's a gray little t-shirt, it's a very coveted, beloved vintage t-shirt that she probably spent too much money on. But that's how we approached her. She repeats her clothes a lot, which is, I think, realistic for people.
Mm-hmm. And I love that she has a look in the show when she sort of, I guess, like she's like when she's trying to dress up, and you know, Jean tells her, oh, like you look so beautiful, you know, and kind of she notices her. What was your intention behind that specific look?
Are you talking about the red dress that she wears episode 5 when she goes to when she meets George in Vegas? It was just to keep her super youthful. The idea originally for Ava is like she goes to Vegas to meet with Deborah Vance. She has no idea what she's getting into. She doesn't really pack a lot of clothes. So she just throws a few things in a bag, and she doesn't really realize how long she's staying. So that was like a dress we thought that she would have had. Maybe she had bought 4 or 5 years ago. Was a little too short. She didn't have any other shoes to wear with it except for her Doc Martens. So we just put that combo together. We just felt it was a realistic dress that Ava would have had.
And you know, you did Veep, which I just adore and could talk to you about it forever. Do you find that, well, do you have sort of an approach for these women that are like these powerful powerhouse women, and how do you, again, as you were saying before, like find that line between something that's like chic without being too, like, I don't know, gaudy, I suppose? Like, what is that line for you, and how do you thread that needle?
I mean, it's a hard one to thread sometimes. I try to keep my toe dipped in reality, which helps. I mean, there's so many beautiful costumes that are costumey, you know, over the top in a way that they might be fun to look at, but takes you out of the story almost. So I try to walk that line of being true to the character and keeping it grounded in reality, even though it is fabulous.
Do you find that Deborah, has she influenced your own fashion in any way? Are there pieces of her that you've sort of carried with you?
I On a very impulse, impulse, I bought a pair of sequin sweatpants. So yes, I would say that I got a little Deborah Vance fever.
And just to get an idea of the scope, like how many pieces were you guys working with in the show? What was your sort of timeline? I want to make sure people understand just how much work went into making it happen.
Gosh, we started, I think we started prepping September, October of 2020. So we were right smack dab in the middle of the pandemic. So that was also a challenge. And we started from nothing. We had no stock whatsoever for these characters. So it was a mad scramble to get their closet, fittings, closets built as far as basic pieces, and then adding to it, as the episodes required certain specific things. But I mean, we ended up with, I think we started at nothing, and I think we ended up with something like 35 or 40 big containers of clothes that we boxed up at the end of the season. Deborah Vance's wardrobe took up a whole room in its entirety when we were working. So we had a lot of clothes.
And I have to ask you about Caitlin Olsen's character. She was a lot of fun, and in particular her jewelry. The whole thing is like she's a jewelry designer. Did you find those pieces? Did you make them? I mean, what is the story there?
The jewelry is actually sourced from our prop master, Gail Perello, and so she did all the jewelry. I did weigh in. I gave my opinion, as did our director Lucia, but all of that was sourced by Gay. And I loved Caitlin. The sort of idea behind her wardrobe was she sort of was felt at her heyday in the 90s, and she just kept that going. So that was kind of the inspiration for her, and she was fun. I love Caitlin.
And are there any other pieces that I didn't ask you about that are special to you? One that took the longest, something that you want to make sure that we highlight?
No, I mean, the other favorite dress of mine that Deborah wears is the black dress she wore at DJ's birthday party. That was I thought especially beautiful on Jean.
It's so funny. I'm closer to age to Ava, but everything that Jean wore, I was like, I want that. I want that. Like, how can I? There's just something so classic about it. And it's interesting, you mentioned like the Vegas of it all. It would have been very easy to lean into that so heavily and go kind of like Liberace. So,
yeah, we tried to, the intention was to make her a modern, real person and to give her a distinct style of her own. And I think we achieved that. I feel like now I see things now and I think, oh, that's a Deborah Vance thing. I have this, I have a very clear vision of who she is.
I was speaking to the production designer earlier today, and one thing that he mentioned was that sort of the idea was this like back sort of the old and the new mixing together. Did you find that with her fashion as well, areas where you were trying to sort of modernize her, but then also she is a little bit old-fashioned and stuck in her ways?
Oh, absolutely. Sort of the backstory that Jean and I talked about a lot for Deborah was that she is a collector. We see her, in that scene where she's collecting the pepper shaker. She has all those tchotchkes that she loves to buy. She also loves clothes. And so she has closets full of all of her costumes and all of her clothes throughout the decades. So there were definitely vintage pieces that we use that, particularly when she was at QVC, there's a couple fun vintage sort of bomber jackets that she wears. So we like the idea also of just incorporating beloved pieces from different decades that she just, pulls out and feels good in.
And Kathleen, as I let you go, is there anything that I haven't asked you that you wanted to mention, that you wanted me to mention, know about?
Well, you know, you mentioned you spoke with John Carlos. I loved working with him, and I think it was such a important collaboration for the two of us, and also for the show and the look of the show. It was really fun to work with him, and his work is so beautiful. And there were many times where he and I would, you know, we'd walk the sets together, and I would see what he was doing, and then I would be able to sort of incorporate certain tones and colors in the palettes that Deborah would wear or that Ava was wearing, to sort of blend in, and that in conjunction with Adam Bricker's cinematography, I think it just painted a really beautiful, special picture.